Hello and welcome to this video where we will be discussing assessments within the Security Intelligence Platform web interface. As we all know, FireMon excels at creating reports, and more specifically at empowering customers to create or modify reports to best fit their requirements. Let's start by focusing in on what makes a report work. The building block would be the control, which is a basic filter that checks a specific portion of a device's configuration. Examples of controls include rule usage over 365 days, whether certain networks are blocked, or rules using services like Telnet. In FireMon, a group of these controls is called an assessment. If we look at the administration page and click on Compliance and then Assessments, we see there are many choices. These are pre-configured by FireMon to take a good photo of the security network, but it is up to you, the customer, to find the best angle for the perfect picture. Looking at the assessments page, the columns we see are, of course, the name and description of each option. We also see how many controls make up each assessment. The other columns relate to how many devices are assigned to each assessment, as well as the number of device groups assigned, when the assessments were last modified, and then we have our options on the ellipses at the far right. Let's now look at one of our pre-configured assessments to view its associated controls and find out how it can be assigned. In this view, notice that the name and description are grayed out, meaning that we cannot make changes to the pre-configured assessments. In the assessment builder, we find our controls, which are grouped by section titles. Clicking on the sections will display the controls and their descriptions. If we need to see more details on the control, we can click on the ellipsis on the right, where we see the Control Details button. Next, we can scroll down to view the assignment configurations. When an assessment is assigned to a firewall or group of firewalls, the assessment will run in the background against those devices, and the control results will add to the SCI and complexity scores as well as the other metrics on the Security Manager dashboard. Assignments are easy to configure as we find our device groups on the left pane and add them to the right pane. We can also add individual devices in the panes below that. Click Save here, and we're done. The obvious question now is how to create a custom assessment. There are 3 ways of doing this. We can create one from scratch, import an existing assessment from a different system, or duplicate one of the pre-configured assessments. All 3 options allow flexibility to then add or remove existing controls or even create custom controls and add them to our assessment. Looking at our first option, when we click on Create, the configurations look the same, except that now we can add sections and text to separate groups of controls. Then within the section at the far right, we have the ability to add or delete subsections and controls. If we click on Add Control, we see a list of controls which can also be searched to easily find a specific control. If a custom control was created, which is covered in another video, we will also be able to search it in this list. Therefore, creating an assessment is, in essence, working with a blank slate for those who love to build from the ground up. There are times, however, when we find that a pre-configured assessment has all the controls we would like to run, except for a few that would meet the requirements of auditors, for instance. In this case, it would not be an efficient use of time to completely remake an assessment from scratch just to add those few controls. This is where importing and duplicating assessments can help to meet those needs. Both have the same function, whereas importing is copying an assessment from a different system, duplicating an assessment will make a copy of one of the pre-configured assessments already on our system. Either option allows us to modify the list of controls, giving us the ability to add or delete the pre-configured controls or add custom ones. Since importing an assessment is as simple as clicking the Import button, we will focus on duplication. Pick the assessment you want to duplicate, click on the ellipsis to the right once again. We'll click on Duplicate and then be prompted to give the assessment a new name. Click the Duplicate button once again and the new assessment will show up in the list. Now, if we click on the ellipsis, we have the option to edit as opposed to just view. The assessment builder will have all the same controls as the pre-configured one, But now we see the option of creating new sections and adding or removing controls, as well as disabling them. So we've gone over how assigning firewalls to assessments will make them run automatically. But another very important feature is that we can run reports based on these assessments. To do this, we go to System and click Reports, click on Create, and then Compliance and Assessment Report. We can name our report as needed, and then we choose an assessment from our drop-down list. Choose a device group, cluster, or device to run the report against. Decide which summaries are needed to show up on the report, then configure the schedule for when the report will be run and the users who will be notified. Finally, save that report, and we're done. In conclusion, a FireMon assessment is a group of controls that can either be run on security devices in the background or as a report. While we can definitely use the pre-configured assessments in the administration page, we also have the ability to create assessments from scratch or duplicate assessments so we can add, delete, or even disable controls. We can also use the compliance and assessment report to create a report using any of our assessments with the ability to schedule when those reports are run and distribute by email. For more information on controls, assessments, and reporting, see the Security Manager User's Guide on FireMon's User Center page.